Good morning, everyone. I am here with Mr. Girish Agrawal. This is the first time that I'm doing something like this on the channel. Mera introduction. I'm Ravi Keval Ramani. I'm a second generation real estate agent based out of Mumbai. If this is the first time you come to the channel or to our Instagram handle, then please check out the information in the description section below. So today I am here with Mr. Girish Agrawal. He is a Vastu consultant, a Vastu expert. मैं इनको BDA कॉन्क्लेव में मिला था बोरीवली. इट वाज अ वेरी बाय चांस इंट्रोडक्शन एंड वी कनेक्टेड. बातों बातों में मैंने उनको बोला कि आई नो नथिंग अबाउट वास्तु एंड आई एम अ ले मैन विच मोस्ट पीपल आउट देयर आर. सो लेट मी इंटरव्यू यू. व्हाट वी छोटा जो डिस्कशन हम लोग ने किया था was very insightful for me. So I thought let me have a conversation with him on camera for my viewers, for my followers, to know what is Vastu, and he agreed.
Yes, with pleasure.
Here we are in Andheri at the club. We are having his conversation. I have a list of questions that I'm going to ask him. He doesn't know these questions. I am someone who is at the edge, at the line of believer, non-believer of Vastu. I always believe that there has to be some sort of practicality to the Vastu aspect of it, and he's here to make me a believer, prove me otherwise, and so on and so forth. So, Mr. Agrawal, आपको अपने बारे में कुछ बोलना है? Something about yourself, an introduction about yourself.
So, namaste. My name is Girish Agrawal, like Ravi just said, and I am a Vastu consultant. I've been doing this for 15 years professionally, and it gives me great joy to be in the field to see the changes that this science can bring about in people's lives. So I really love doing Vastu consultations.
So I'm going to start with the word that you said. You said science.
Yes.
I don't believe Vastu is an exact science.
Right.
Is it an exact science? Is it a science? What is Vastu?
Vastu is a science, I'll repeat that, and it's got nothing to do with belief. For example, no matter what prayer I say, what language I speak, where I am from, but if I put a pot of milk on the fire, it's going to boil. It is that much of a science. So certain things, you do them, they will create certain reactions or situations. So Vastu is a science of harmonizing spaces. There are many levels that it is done at. We'll go deeper during our conversation. But it is aligning the space to the purpose of that space, for what it is being built and for whom it is being built. And you can harmonize the positive energies and use them for your well-being to attain the purpose for which you have created that space, and reduce or minimize or mitigate the negatives that are there.
Okay.
So that is what Vastu does.
So it is a science according to you.
Absolutely.
An exact science.
There is nothing exact in the world. Even if you talk about, would you say medicine is an exact science?
It's research based.
So this is also being researched. Unfortunately, what has happened is, to many of our ancient Indian sciences, because of the many centuries of foreign rule in our country, they systematically destroyed or disturbed the lines of handing down these ancient sciences. Nobody knows when or where they came from. It's very difficult to date them, because many of our Indian sciences are ancient sciences. The system of teaching was Shruti and Smriti, which is listening and remembering. So when you disrupt a line like that, some things are definitely lost. So we are rediscovering some of the aspects, and some of them where the books were available are like set in stone.
I have so many questions to ask you in this one thing that you mentioned. You said it's been going on for generations, for hundreds and thousands of years.
Thousands of years.
So is there an origin, documented origin of Vastu science in this country? Is there a documented origin?
So over time, there have been many people, many rishis or scholars, if I may use the term today, who have written works on Vastu. Many of these works that we still have in a good state of exactness do exist, like the Maimatam, the Vishwakarma Prakash, and the Mansar. There are so many books that are still available. And what these rishis did, like today, if there is a doctor who is researching on a certain aspect of medicine, then he writes research papers, right?
Yeah.
He collates information that is currently contemporarily available to him. He adds his own thoughts, his research, his experiments, and he creates something. You can think of these books like that.
So there are books that exist
Yes.
that have come down from generations,
Yes.
and the new generation is working on them. It's like वो कौन थे न्यूटन साहब ने पहले ग्रेविटी का किया, then that book went on to Einstein and Einstein upgraded on that, and then from Einstein it went on to the new generation of scientists who are working on different cosmological, astronautical sciences.
Of course. Even Vastu has to be adapted to the current situation. Because when these books were written, the way of life, the reality of structures, because it is a science of architecture, it was very different. The materials used, the size of the structures, the way we designed them was very different. And today, the modern metros that we have, the new materials and technologies that we have made a lot of things possible which were not possible at that time, or a lot of things that we use today. So, for example, today when I am designing an apartment, I have to think where the washing machine goes, because that also does something to the energies of the space.
Okay.
Obviously, that many centuries ago, they didn't know about a washing machine.
It didn't exist.
It did not exist. So, a lot of research is going on, and there are great thinkers and people working on it. We learn from our experiences, and we are adapting to the modern times with great results. But lot more to do. This can go on. A lifetime is not enough to study and experiment with this science.
That is true for any science.
Exactly.
It evolves over generations. You realize, a medicine or anything to do with science, you realize that, what was true 20 years ago is not true anymore because it has been proven wrong.
Yes.
So that is an ongoing process. That I agree.
Western sciences, I will say, are in their infancy, many of them. Although we may call them advanced sciences, they still have to catch up with our rishis.
Okay. When it comes to a city like Mumbai, what are the basics that one should be thinking about when talking about a Vastu compliant home? Just the basics.
Okay. In any Vastu, whether it is Mumbai or elsewhere, one of the most basic things that a lay person can look at is the main entrance.
Okay.
That is of primary importance. And then the placement of the elements. One of them is a very important element, that is fire.
Okay.
Because uncontrolled fire, you can imagine what it would do to
Demolish,
anything.
destroys everything.
Yes. So the place, the fireplace, if it is a home, is also very important. Or wherever there is fire, if it's a factory or a home, wherever. Placement of that is very important. And besides that, there are certain disturbing things in a space. For example, toilets do not have a good space to be in Vastu. In ancient times, you might have visited old palaces and things like that. There were no toilets originally in them.
They used to be usually outside the house.
Outside the house. So even today, when you are choosing a space, then the placement of toilets in certain parts of the space, like the northeast, for example, is not acceptable. So toilet placements, main door, fire location.
Why is that? Fire, where is fire supposed to be? Because as far as my basic knowledge, मेरे को जितने भी लोगों ने बोला है, fire is supposed to be in the southeast corner.
So the southeast, that is correct, is a direction of fire, but it begins from the south and goes all the way to somewhere between east and southeast. Anywhere there is a direction of fire, but there are a couple of other places where the fire can be. So in the west, in a home, for most people it works. And for example, if you're doing a restaurant, then a fire in the northwest is also very good.
Okay.
So it depends what the purpose of the space is. It is wrong to assume that one standard layout, one size fits all, doesn't work.
So Vastu is individualistic. It is pertaining to every individual, his business or his residence. It is not generic. It is not
Absolutely.
like ये इधर ही होना चाहिए. For me or for you or for any other person, Vastu has to be particular to that individual person only. Is that true?
There are certain things that are fixed. So the directions of the elements, for example, are fixed. But in Vastu, there are at least, if I talk about basics, there are at least three levels that one has to work on. One is the earth energies.
Okay.
So I'm talking about a situation where maybe there isn't even a structure on it yet. It's just a plot.
Land.
Land.
जमीन के ऊपर.
Yes. The land, like any object which is now scientifically proven, resonates at various frequencies.
Okay.
So does the earth. So you can read about Schumann resonances and things like that.
What is it called again?
Schumann resonance.
Schumann resonance.
Yes.
Okay.
A lot of research is going on it. Basically, a large part of the earth, it resonates at 7.83 hertz, which is conducive to human habitation
Okay.
and our well-being. But there are spaces or places on the earth which resonate at different frequencies, which are not good for us, which can lead to illnesses, psychological problems, business issues, many things. It can actually break up the structure. So, earth energies is something that one needs to look at.
Okay.
This is universal. So, sleeping on a stress line is
Okay.
not good for anyone. Then comes your orientation.
Okay.
When you get the structure, then the directions. Most people just restrict Vastu to this study of directions and orientation, which is just probably a small part of the whole thing. So, those directions are.
I have another question to ask.
Yes,
No,
please.
no, go ahead. But I want you to finish.
So, these directions, they become now individualistic because they are also related to elements, and each person has certain primary elements. In Ayurveda, they would call it Prakriti. So you may be of a Vat Prakriti or a Pitta Prakriti. So then those elements have directions which become more important for you as an individual.
I don't understand what Vag Prakriti and
Okay.
Pit Prakriti. All I know is Pit is what my mom used to say. पेट में हो गया. That's
Acidity,
हाँ.
acid reflux or acidity, hyperacidity. No, that's not what we're talking about. That is a disturbed state of Pitta.
Okay.
So, our human physiognomy, according to Ayurveda, can be
ढक दो ना.
classified into three different types.
Say that again, please.
Our human physiognomy can be classified into three major types. Of course, there are many subtypes. And these are mixes of various elements. Our ancient Indian sciences say that the whole universe, everything in it, is made of 5 basic elements. These 3 prakritis, Vat, Pitta and Kapha, are mixtures of these 5. One of them, one combination of them is usually predominant in every person. And you can say so much about a person's personality just looking at them, because once you study it, it becomes obvious to you what their prakriti is. Now again, these elements are related to directions. So let us say, let's take Pitta. Don't think of it as acidity. Think of it as more predominantly fire element.
Okay.
You just said that fire is southeast,
Huh.
right? So those directions which are related to the fire element for a person having Pitta Prakriti are more important, because disturbances there will disturb that person more. So there we start customizing. Then again, if the horoscope of a person is available, then we can relate the space according to that person's horoscope. Because the planets, the signs of the zodiac, they all have specific directions. So in a person's horoscope, one would know what direction is more important for that person to make money, for example. A disturbance in that direction for that person is not good if we are doing a business consultation.
So Vastu is way deeper than just ये घर है, ये इधर होना चाहिए, ये direction में होना चाहिए. It basically starts from the time you are born.
Yes.
From your horoscope, जो हम लोग सालों साल करते हैं, जो माँ बाप पहले करते हैं कि भाई इसका छट्टी बनाओ, जो हम लोग सिंधी में छट्टी बोलते हैं,
Yes.
छट्टी बनाओ, उसका horoscope chart बनाओ उसका. So you are saying that Vastu begins from there. The direction of the person's, the planets aligned at the time when the person is born determines his occupation, determines his residence determines his work. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I am not saying it determines that. We all have free choice, free will. It always exists. A horoscope is like having a roadmap.
Okay.
You use Google Maps.
Okay.
It tells you that if you go on this path, you will find a lot of traffic. You may be stuck there for an hour.
Okay.
There's an alternate route that you can take and reach sooner, more
Okay.
comfortably, whatever. That is what a horoscope does. It doesn't rule what you're doing.
Okay.
But if you know how to use it,
Huh.
it can suggest to you
Okay.
and make things easier or better.
It's a guideline.
It's a guide.
That's it.
Yes.
But it does not define who you are or define your destiny.
There are influences. So I am not saying that it binds you in any way, but there will be influences. So if I was to ask you that there are certain people who are aggressive, courageous, and probably better suited to, let's say, become a soldier in the army.
Okay.
There might be another person who is very docile, not so courageous. Send him out on the field and there are people shooting at him. Will he be able to perform?
No, he's gonna die.
Yes, maybe may not be, but he may
He
not be
might
a
survive
good
if his
soldier.
luck is good, but yeah.
He may not be a good soldier, right?
Okay.
So your horoscope also creates these influences and it can say what your aptitude is. It does decide that. Now, whether or not you work within your aptitude or not is up to you.
Okay.
But yes, the horoscope does give you aptitudes.
Okay. One question I have is, well, among many questions I have, Vastu and Feng Shui. Feng Shui is Japanese?
Chinese.
Chinese. Feng Shui is Chinese. Vastu is Indian. What is the difference between both of them? Are they different? And are they different and what is the difference if they are different?
They are definitely different. Feng Shui is an adaptation of Vastu. At the outset, I must say I am not a Feng Shui practitioner, nor have I studied that science. So I have a rudimentary understanding of what it is. And yes, there are stark differences between Feng Shui and Vastu. I will say it's a distant cousin, if at all. There were a lot of Chinese scholars who've come to this country over the centuries, taken a lot of learning, Buddhism, for example, from us. Amongst them, they also would have learned Vastu, adapted it. And over the centuries, things do get distorted.
In your rudimentary knowledge about Feng Shui, give me one or two examples of how are they two different.
Feng Shui creates something called a bagua, which is like a grid that they would place upon the space.
Okay.
Again, that is done in many different ways. Some people do it as per the year of birth, time of birth. Some people do it in a fixed manner. I just spoke about 5 elements. They also deal with the 5 elements, but then the directions they choose for the elements are different. The properties of those elements are different. The way they will treat them is different. So
Okay.
those are the differences. Some of the differences.
Vastu has been there for the longest time, as per you, for centuries.
Yes.
ओके हम लोग ने वास्तु अभी पिछले 25-30 साल पहले 30 साल पहले तो किसी ने सुना भी नहीं था आई थिंक just around 15 to 20 years ago it has gained a lot of prominence. So during my father's time, he used to invest in properties. During my father's time, Vastu, I never heard him talk about Vastu, nor was it that prominent. This is in the mid 80s, 70s and mid 80s and even up to the late 90s, I never heard anything about Vastu. Now that I am full-fledged in it, almost 50% of my clients are asking about Vastu. How has it gained so much significance recently?
Let's start with how it became insignificant.
Okay.
Like I said, it was the foreign invaders who wanted to impose their cultures for their own benefit. A lot of colonialism was not really intended for the benefit of us,
Huh.
the original inhabitants of our country. Plus, they did not have belief, faith, understanding of so much that was part of our culture. So they tried to reorganize society as per what they thought was right, as per what benefited them. Our systems of education Our ancient systems of education were completely dismantled. And I know when I was growing up as a kid, everyone wanted to put their kid in a convent school. Why? He'll learn good English. I don't know why that became so important. But why it is becoming popular again, it wasn't completely lost. There were people practicing it, and it's become popular because it works.
Give me one example where you have personally experienced a turnaround from an individual from, say, he was at position X and now he is at position X plus plus, just because either of his house or his office or commercial property.
Something that is very tangible and you can actually see it. One of my clients, uh, when I went to consult for their home, they had moved in there, they had one child, they wanted to have one more.
Okay.
And they had been trying, and complications would happen, miscarriages, this, that, and the other. And they were really, really keen on having another baby. And we worked on it because that was part of their concerns when they spoke to me. And within a few months, the lady conceived, eventually delivered a nice, healthy baby. And that gentleman was literally in tears when he called me to give me this news. And he said, I will never forget exactly where you were standing when in my home when we spoke about this. And you said, do this thing over here and don't worry, it'll happen. And today, I have a lovely baby girl. So that's very tangible. You can meet this little baby.
You bought an individual in this world.
I did not.
Well, obviously they did. They had to do the work. But what was just give? What was the difference? The 2-3 inputs that you give. What was causing the harm, and what did you rectify to make that happen? That beautiful thing happen.
So, for anything to happen, from a Vastu perspective, there are various directions, energy fields, like I spoke about, elements that need to be in a state of balance to work. For example, if I talk about conception, then for anything to be conceived, for something new to be created, it could be seed sprouting in a field. There is a certain energy field called Parjanya, which has to be in a healthy state of balance, which was not the case in their home. And I knew it because I had gridded the space and analyzed it. And that's why I was so confident that if we correct it, things should work.
What did you correct?
Now, this will become a little technical and
Just
a lot of people...
give me a brief. Like from a non-technical point of view, from someone like me point of view, जो मैं कितना भी deep में जाऊँ ना मेरे को नहीं समझ में आएगा.
Right.
अब no matter how much, if you sit down and you try to explain to me as much as possible, I will not understand it, and I will lose. I will zone out. So, just as a layman, पर जैसे आप किसी बच्चे को समझाते हो वैसे समझाइए in a very simple, clean manner. So, as basic as possible.
Each of these energy fields, now if I'm talking about Parjanya, it is a set of 45 energy fields that manifest in any space. If you've heard of a term called Vastu Purush Mandal, see, I said this will get technical.
Vastu Purush, I know. But that I know basically क्या होता है, that also I know because my clients have done it. At the entrance of the house, they put a Vastu Purush, and then another person had put it underneath the... Where? In the kitchen, underneath the temple. Yeah. अभी वो क्या लॉजिक था मेरे को मालूम नहीं. Let's not get into that. But I want to know this specific incident.
That वास्तु पुरुष जो जमीन के अंदर डालते हैं वो छोटा सा इमेज वो अलग चीज है.
अच्छा.
मैं वास्तु पुरुष मंडल की बात कर रहा हूँ, which is a way of gridding a space into 45 specific energy fields, each of which have got specific functions, attributes, qualities. So now this is a little advanced way of gridding it. Not everyone can even grid it in any regular space. So anyway, they have certain spaces. Like, for example, if a baby is being formed, won't their various organs get created on their own? Nature does it.
Correct.
Everybody will have their stomach and the liver and the heart in a specific
Starts
space.
with a heartbeat. The first thing to come is the heartbeat.
Somewhat like that. So these Devta fields also, these energy fields also have a specific sequence in which they come into existence as the construction of a space goes on. So once the space is ready, you can grid and you know where each one of them are. There are certain colors, shapes, elements that are conducive to them. There are certain that are not. So in this particular case, they had a lot of clutter that was kept over there, the wrong colors were there, and I had it all cleared, had the right colors brought in, some plants to be kept there because it was needed in this case. That's all I did.
Okay.
There's no black magic or voodoo. And it's, you said you made it happen. I did not. See, it was very important that in this case, the couple, the parents of this child to be, were normal and fit medically. It was possible for them to have kids.
Okay.
So, in case somebody has some deformed organs or there is something wrong with them, their physiology, which makes it impossible for them to have kids, then it's not jadoo that we do. If there is an obstruction or an imbalance that is causing this, we can take that away.
So basically, you mean to say that one force of nature, which is unexplained, you do not know, no matter, so there are two healthy individuals, no matter what they did, it just was not happening. The baby was not being conceived. You came in, advised them on certain aspects of the home that they were in, guided them, and apparently the forces of nature came together, and what they wanted happened.
Yes, very much.
Okay. So, it's safe to say you are a facilitator. You were the facilitator.
Absolutely. Me as an individual does not do anything, but I have studied this science. I know what the imbalances are. I know how to create that harmony again, which was lost because of ignorance, lack of knowledge, and we end up doing things because we didn't know about it.
Okay.
And then nature takes its own course.
Okay. You were talking about something called a grid.
Yes.
What is a grid? What do you mean?
Okay. So, in ancient terms, according to the Granth, it is called Pad Vinyas. But I call it a grid because more people will understand. To work on any space, Vastu is a very exact science. So, it needs a very exact layout and drawing of the space. And then we divide it
Into sections.
into sections in various ways, depending for what I'm doing that grid. So there are many different types of grids. So if I want to locate these 45 energy fields, then it is a particular kind of grid. If I want to identify the main entrances, then it is done in 32 pad. It's different ways
How much time does it take?
to do this.
Yeah, I mean, based on, you're saying there is a grid for every purpose.
Yes,
How many grids are there total?
dozens of grids. But we don't need to do it for every space.
So when a person comes to you, he says that, these are the issues that I'm facing. Based on that, you set up their either residential or commercial car grid, and you design that, or you basically based on the issues that individual has is what the grid is made for.
Yes, that aspect of it. Maybe we will just go into more detail into one part of the home. To give you an example, to make it easy to understand, let's say I went to an orthopedic surgeon.
Okay.
Let's say I was having issue with a certain joint.
Huh.
Then, depending on the clinical analysis, the doctor may just ask me to move my joint around, flex it, and decide that it is just a muscle pull and give me some medication, advice, something, and I'll be fine. But he may, on the other hand, feel that I have something broken in there, or there's a ligament that is torn. Then he will go into more detail. He may ask for an X-ray or an MRI,
Beautifully explained.
and then he will choose what treatment to do. So it works like that. And in any case, I just go for a sprained ankle. He is not going to do a full body CAT scan on me. Easy. So this is also like that.
Or unless he's he's got,
Yeah,
then it's a different story.
Yep.
But it's the way you have put Vastu for someone like me. Once again I'm saying I'm a
Skeptic.
Yeah, skeptic. That's the right word. You have put Vastu into a science aspect where I am coming to you with an ailment, with a problem, with a issue, and you are diagnosing it scientifically.
Of course. You know, Ravi, many times we go into a space and I like to calibrate that the grid I have done, the analysis I have done, the imbalances that I see in that home, whether they are tallying with the life situations of the people using that space. Of course, if they have been there for a certain period of time. Many times, I ask them questions. Does this happen? Does the person sleeping here behave in a certain manner? Uh, does somebody in the home have these fears or phobias? Or has an accident happened here? Or a burglary happened here? And most often they say yes. And that is because the grid says so. I'll give you an example here. Suddenly, an incident came to my mind. A couple of years ago, I was consulting for a lady who lived on Bandra Sea Face. I forget the building's name, but lovely
okay.
ocean view home. She was a very senior journalist,
Okay.
and she used to be a film reporter in her younger days. And I was telling her a few things about her home. I had met her for the first time that day when I went for the visit. And she kept saying yes, yes to most of them. And at a certain point, I asked her that how is the relationship between your son and his father? She says, why are you asking? I said, as per me, there can be stress there. And that old senior citizen lady actually stood up with folded hands and she said, yes, my son has left. He does not even step into this home because he can't see eye to eye with his dad. But how did you know? What do I tell her? It's simply where her gas ka chula was kept in the home. And I could say that.
It was creating friction between the father and son.
Between the father and the son. Yes.
Okay.
So it does tell us things.
Okay. ठीक है. You want to take a break?
I'm cool.
I'm hungry.
Please.
There was another anecdote you gave where there was one of your people in your network who was under debt, who was
Yes.
in a lot of debt, and you gave him suggestions which basically helped him out, and he got out of debt, and his wife's jewelry and everything came back.
Yep.
How can you attribute all of that to just वास्तु? वो इंसान की भी मेहनत होगी, उसका भी कुछ सोच होगा, उसका भी तो कुछ रहेगा कि सिर्फ वास्तु की वजह से ही it all happened. ऐसा थोड़ी होता है.
I agree with you. ऐसा थोड़ी होता है. अगर ऐसा होता तो सबसे पहले तो मैं मेरे घर में 4 उपाय करके आराम से सोता. Why would I be going out looking for clients, doing consultations? कर्मा तो सबसे पहले है. आपका डेस्टिनी भी कोई चीज है which plays a role. You always have free will to make decisions, to take action in a certain way. Vastu supports you, and no matter how much Vastu or astrology we apply, if let us say a person's destiny says that they are going to have 100 rupees, we cannot make it 101. But wrong Vastu can take it to 50, 20, minus 20. If we take away the obstacles, we allow that positivity to flow into their lives. Karma, their efforts, ability, destiny, everything, of course, is there.
So you mean to say there is you walk a path, okay? You walk a path of life,
Yes.
which you're destined to go. You have some hurdles, which pull you back. Vastu removes those hurdles.
If the hurdles were related to Vastu in the first place. So, see, let me say it this way. If somebody lives, let's say there's a king's palace, he's a king, he's prosperous, and he has everything that someone could materially desire. Do all the people, his staff and everyone living in that palace become the king because they're sharing the Vastu with him? That's never the case.
No, but how is that? The king has his own, the house is made for the king, the palace is made for the king.
Yes.
The palace is not made for the servants. For the servants, for their quarters and for whatever, his advisor, his wazir and his defense head, jo bhi rahenge, they will have their own separate thing. But that Vastu for the king is for the house is for the king, no? The palace.
Absolutely, it is. But let us say,
just because they stay in that house doesn't mean that they're going to go the same way.
that's what I'm saying, Ravi. That's the point I'm trying to make.
But that Vastu is specific for that individual, no?
It is, but no matter how much you balance the Vastu, it cannot supersede your karma and your destiny. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay. Yeah, you got me on that. Karma है, कर्मा नाम की कोई चीज होती है, जैसी करनी वैसी भरनी.
100%.
वो I understand. It's very difficult to become a believer, especially from my aspect.
Right.
I am a very, very practical individual. I always think that, bhai, you have to think practical. I have a guttural feeling. The gut says do this, and there is usually a pull and a push. There are some places that pull you towards, they pull you, and then there are other places where you'll be like, yaar, idhar andar ghusna hi nahi hai. And that is very true when it comes to the properties that I work on, the properties that I market. There are some properties, I'll give you an example. There was one property I went into where it just was so negative. I didn't feel like entering into that property. I was cringing every minute I was sitting in that house, और मेरे को सिर्फ उधर से भागना था. ऐसा लग रहा था कि मैं अगर अंदर रहूंगा ना, कोई मेरे को राक्षस आके खा जाएगा. हाँ, मेरे को ऐसा लग रहा था कि I just don't want to be in this property. Do you also experience that, or do you have a process where before you enter, do you have a guttural feeling, or do you have a process that you follow when you do your Vastu compliancy?
So, gut feeling is something that I believe all of us as human beings do have.
Okay.
Some of us, like you, are sensitive, in touch with it, and you sense these things. You listen to your gut. We all need to do more of it.
Sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes the guts give me loose motions. Yes, go ahead.
So you do listen to your gut even then.
Yeah. Then I have to run to the bathroom.
So all of us, in theory, have it. Many of us are not in touch with it anymore. But when you say you went into a space and you got negative vibes over there and you did not like that space, all of us have that experience to some extent or another. Let us say you're in a new city, you're walking down a street, you need to have dinner. There are many restaurants there. There will be some restaurant for no reason will attract you, and you'll feel like going and sitting there and having a meal and probably have a good time doing that. Another place, you step into it and you just don't like it. Now, those negative places are actually my clients because we can turn them around.
Okay.
And that's what I do.
But how do you have a process that you follow? जैसे आप वो ग्रिड का सिस्टम बोल रहे थे.
जी.
आप खुद फिजिकली कोई प्रॉपर्टी जाके देखते हो कि पहले आपको फ्लोर प्लान चाहिए, पहले आपको समझना है, उसके बाद में जाएंगे. और अगर समझो कभी ऐसा सिचुएशन भी हुआ है कि जहां आपने फ्लोर प्लान देखा एंड व्हेन यू वेंट ओवर देयर एंड यू फाउंड आउट टू बी समथिंग डिफरेंट, यू थॉट चलो एज पर फ्लोर प्लान दिस इज यूजलेस, दिस प्रॉपर्टी इज अ डेड बीट प्रॉपर्टी, और उधर पहुंचने के बाद में आपको लगा कि नो दिस प्रॉपर्टी हैज पोटेंशियल, आई वाज रॉन्ग.
So the floor plan just tells us about one aspect of the Vastu of a space. There are many more. So I spoke about earth energies sometime
those
back.
5 elements, I need to talk to you about that also. What are those 5 elements?
Yes, we'll get to that also. But the earth energies, for example, will not show up on any grid. That is something that you sense on the space, or there are also devices that you can use to check them.
The frequency.
Yes. Or if you go by the ancient texts, when these devices were not there, these instruments were not there, they told us something about Lakshan. So, for example, animals like cats, bats, or honeybees, they are attracted, they thrive on places that suffer of geopathic stress.
Bats I can understand because they sense everything through ultrasonic. So they have heightened senses.
You're talking about sound. This is one of the senses.
Yeah, but frequency is sound. Some level of frequency is sound.
Everything is frequency. Lights are different frequencies. How do colors change? They're just different frequencies that the light is.
Okay.
You spoke about a gut feel, right? That is something that you cannot explain.
Correct.
It is beyond your 5 senses.
Okay.
We do have more than 5 senses, Ravi.
Okay.
So we sense things.
The 6th sense.
6, 7, 8.
Okay.
So you can sense things, don't you? You've met a person for the first time. He or she has not done anything to displease you, but you still don't want to be with them. What is that sense?
I just don't like the person.
Why?
I don't know.
Exactly.
I just don't like the person.
Those I don't know are beyond the 5 senses. Isn't it?
उसका मेरे को जवाब नहीं है.
नहीं है तो वही क्योंकि वो 5 senses में लिमिट कर दिया है ना हमारे एक्सपीरियंस को. तो लॉजिक 5 senses, what I can see, touch, smell, here is real, beyond that is not. There's a lot more to the universe than what these five senses perceive.
Coming back to the stress points, the
Yes.
stress joints. What were you saying? Stress?
Lines.
Stress lines, huh?
Or they can be points where they intersect, yeah.
Okay. So what are you talking about? These cats, bats and honeybees?
Honeybees, termites, there are many examples to that. These are just indicators, but these can be assessed, checked, scanned, located and treated.
But how can you do that in a city like Mumbai?
Why not?
मुंबई में कैसे होएगा? मुंबई में वैसे भी प्लॉट्स मिलते नहीं हैं,
जी
ठीक है? जमीन आया तो you can do some treatment for termites. But ये stress point तो is inherent to that land. How
It
do you
is.
fix a stress point?
Like I said, there are certain frequencies which are suitable or conducive to human habitation. That does not mean that all beings or all creatures will thrive at the same frequency. They have different needs. So, these are a few examples, these animals that I spoke about, who are attracted to or who like being around certain other frequencies which may not be good for us humans.
So they get attracted to these stress joints, stress lines.
Yes, they do. And that can be used as an indicator for us when we are looking at a space. Of course, there are many ways to diagnose that.
But how can you fix that?
There are remedies. There
Like
are
what?
a
Give me
lot
one
of
example.
Scientists, there are minerals, metals, objects that we can use to treat that. In ancient times, I can give you a very rudimentary solution
Basic
for this,
बताओ, हाँ.
which does not last for a very long time, but it's very effective while it does last. You know what that is? Cow dung,
Okay,
wood,
okay.
gaon ka ghar. They
हाँ.
used to smear it with cow dung regularly. Have you ever been in a room or a hut or a home that was smeared with cow dung?
No, but I've seen old Hindi movies where गांव में बनाए और they गोबर से घर बनाते हैं.
That is a very effective solution.
पर
or
इसमें बॉम्बे
treatment.
शहर में गोबर थोड़ी उठा के
I'm
डालेगा.
not saying you can do that or you should do that. कि
गोबर
आप
थोड़ी
अपने
डालेगा.
Italian marble और onyx पे जाके
और
गोबर
नहीं
लीप
तो
दो.
क्या?
मैं बिल्कुल नहीं बोल रहा हूँ. But ये एक उपाय था.
तो अभी
And
क्या
feels
कर
very
सकते हैं?
good. अभी तो आपको किसी प्रोफेशनल को बुलाकर ट्रीट करना पड़ेगा. इट इज लाइक सेइंग मेरे हार्ट में ब्लॉकेज है, मैं क्या करूं? आई कैन से डाइट बदलो, वॉक पे जाओ, ये सब.
हाँ, तो आप ये स्ट्रेस लाइंस को अगर आपकी एक है 20 माले की बिल्डिंग है, ठीक
जी,
है,
जी.
20 माले की बिल्डिंग में और बिल्डिंग में सब लोग को ये टर्माइट का प्रॉब्लम है, ठीक है. नाउ देयर इज वन वे ऑफ डूइंग. मैं यूएस में जब था तो व्हाट दे यूज्ड टू डू, देयर वाज समथिंग कॉल्ड मल्च. Mulch was wood, so wooden chips.
जी.
What they used to keep it at the periphery of the apartment complex or of the house, the villa, जो भी वो लोग का होता, single family home बोलते थे, उसको बाउंड्री पे रखते थे. So instead of those termites, those white ants coming into the house, they used to get attracted to the wood outside the house,
Yes.
and they used to eat it. And every year they used to just refill the mulch, refill and refill, और वो लोग खाते थे. अभी that is a modern day solution.
I am not talking about solving your termite problem.
Then what are you talking about?
The termites are attracted to certain places which have geopathic stress. I am also not saying that there will be no termites if there is no geopathic stress. It is likely that there will be termites where there is geopathic stress, and it can be treated with devices, metals, minerals which are installed in the place at appropriate spots.
Devices, minerals and metals. What devices, what minerals and what metals?
That would depend on what the problem is. So, you want to go into detail about this? There are three major kinds of stress lines.
Okay.
One is called geopathic stress,
Okay.
which is very often caused due to underground water flows.
Okay.
Then there is something called infrared lines.
What is that?
We just spoke
Infrared
about
तो मेरे को मालूम है
frequencies.
रिमोट में होता है.
We just spoke about frequencies.
हाँ.
Visible spectrum is the Vibgyor range of
हाँ.
colors. When you go below the frequency of red,
Infrared.
you cannot see it.
Correct.
And then that frequency can keep going
Okay.
lower and lower. So that is negative frequency, which is not conducive
Okay.
for you and me. Can cause illnesses and lots of different
Okay.
situations. Similarly, when you go above the frequency of violet, you get ultraviolet.
Correct.
And these are frequencies that obviously you can measure with modern day devices.
Correct.
Now, there are, depending on what the disturbance is, you can put in things which will block those lines.
Okay.
And let us say divert them.
Okay.
So I have a plot of land and there's water flowing through it. I don't want that water. I want to construct
You mean to
over
say,
there.
okay, oh, through it, okay.
So we will divert that water. Maybe we'll make a channel or a dam and make it go around. That's what we do.
Okay.
Or the frequencies can be changed
How?
using these devices, metals, minerals, various things.
One
There are
device
too
that
many.
can change the frequency. Ultraviolet,
Of course. Doesn't your phone capture frequencies that
Correct.
are coming through the air
Huh.
and make it visual light
Huh.
in the form of a video that you can see
Okay.
or sound that you can hear?
Okay.
It actually caught that invisible wave of frequency
Radio waves.
and it converted it into something that you can experience with your five senses. Before that, you could not. Similarly, why can there not be devices or materials which can change these frequencies into harmless frequencies?
Sir,
That's what
what
we do.
deep is? How long have you been doing this?
15 years now.
How did you start this? Did you study anything of this?
Course. Of
Like
course.
college, school है इसके लिए कि this is all self-taught?
So there are a lot of people who teach, who have done research on one aspect or another. I have had the good fortune of studying with some of the very experienced and respected teachers in the country.
How did your journey start?
25 years ago, an uncle, he first time in my life mentioned the word Vastu to me. Before that, I had not heard about it. I asked him, "ये होता क्या है?"
हाँ.
And he said that it is related to directions, and if you sleep in a certain way with your head pointing in a certain direction, it is good, the other way around is not good. And I actually laughed. I was a bigger skeptic than you are today. And I said, how can it be? And I respected this uncle a lot though. And at the end of the discussion, he said, I'll send you a book, read it. He sent me the book, I read it. I tried a few things around my own home and I saw differences. And like you just asked me some time back, I told myself, nah, this is a coincidence. ये इससे थोड़ी हो गया. I kept trying, it kept working. And that's how the journey began. And I got interested more and more and more. And I kept studying, I'm still studying. And I hope to keep learning till the day I die.
So you are self-taught, number one. There is no school, there you had a guru?
I have many teachers who have taught various aspects of it to me. And of course, a lot of self-study, a lot of experience. Studying anything, you went to school, you had so many teachers. Somebody taught you geography, somebody taught you English, somebody taught you something else. So likewise, in Vastu, there are many aspects. So different experts. I've had the good fortune of learning from many of them, reading literature, experimenting.
3 books that influenced you the most. One book,
Vishwakarma Prakash.
Vishwakarma Prakash. So you would say people to read that book in case they want to understand. Will they understand if they read it? Is it a layman language or is it what? Hindi में, English में, किस में है?
Original text Sanskrit mein hai, but
Acha.
there are good translations available.
Okay.
Well, if it interests you, why not? It's like asking, should I read a book about the functioning of the heart? Well, if it interests you.
Vishwakarma Prakash. Vishwakarma Prakash. Okay.
So, I understand you're a skeptic. Many of my clients are. Sometimes what happens is that the wife believed and she wanted a consultation and the husband was, come on, what is this mumbo jumbo? But he's listening, he's going along with her. But when you experience it, and that is when it becomes more real for you. The proof of the pudding is in the eating, isn't it?
I have no idea what that means.
So, to know
Proof
if a,
of the pudding is in the eating.
yes,
नहीं मेरे को नहीं मालूम पहली बार सुना है.
it's an English phrase.
Sir, I am English also, sir. I talk English, I walk English. Okay, let me see what other questions I can ask you. Vastu and numerology. Same thing, separate things. Are they hand in hand, hand in glove? What is the difference? Please explain.
Numerology is a science that has come back to us from the Jewish system, from the Greek system. We also, of course, have our ancient Anka Ganit systems. Numerology has got a lot of aspects to it, lot of applications to it. For example, you might have seen that a lot of people choose their names or change the spellings of their names. I've seen a lot of Bollywood do that. That is also numerology. I'm telling you because a lot of people will relate to that example. A lot of movie names, there are numerologists that would be consulted by the producers, whoever, and they choose the names accordingly. So that is one application of numerology. It is again a big science and many applications. Yes, it can be applied to Vastu as well. There are again certain grids that we can do with the numbers, and based on that we can energize certain directions which are more important to you. So we identify what numbers are good for you.
How is that decided? Who decides that?
Numerology is a science, so based on your date of birth usually, that is how we begin, and there's a certain grade.
My date of birth is May 11th, 1979.
So when you say May 11th, so the day of your birth is 11.
Yeah.
If I was to add 1 and 1, the two digits, I get the number 2. The number 2 becomes an important number for you. The direction for number 2 is the northwest. The planet associated with is the moon. So if I was consulting for you, I would definitely focus on these directions.
Northwest and?
The planet is the moon.
Moon?
So, yes.
Well, but moon is not a planet. It's a moon.
I agree with you when you talk about it astronomically, but when we speak in astrological terms, we say the Navagrah or the 9 planets. Moon at least is a physical presence there. I do know it is a satellite of the Earth. It's not a planet. But we also have 2 planets called Rahu and Ketu, if you've heard about them.
What are they in English? Saturn
They are called the North Node and the South Node. The English, the Western astrologers do not consider them because they don't even have a physical presence. They are just the crossing points of the trajectories of the Earth, Moon and Sun.
That's too complicated.
Yes, it is. So,
you are the expert, you decide. मेरे को नहीं समझ में आता है.
So these don't have physical presence, but we still call them grah or planet, and we treat them as well. So yes, according to Western science and terminology, the moon is not a planet, I agree with you. But in astrological terms, it is one of the grah, loosely translated as planet. So yeah.
So numerology is part of Vastu.
It can be used for Vastu effectively.
Sir, आप कुछ exact yes or no बोलते हो नहीं बोलते हो sir?
Yes, it can be. मैं yes तो बोल रहा हूँ.
अच्छा.
Everything is a possibility.
I get attracted to the number 88.
Okay.
मैं क्रिकेट खेलता हूँ. ठीक है, मैंने डिसाइड किया था कि मेरे को कुछ नंबर चाहिए. तो एक नंबर मैंने 75 डिसाइड किया था और एक नंबर 88 डिसाइड किया था फॉर माय जर्सी. मैंने जाके 75 का कुछ सिग्निफिकेंस देगा, कुछ सिग्निफिकेंस नहीं था. 8 number का significance in Chinese mythology or whatever Chinese culture.
They are big on the number 8, huh?
Yeah. 8, they love it.
Yes.
And the more the number of 8s, the better it is.
Yes, a phone number in China which has a lot of 8s will be very expensive. A house number that is 8 will be expensive.
Yeah.
A lot of the royals had number 8. 8 is, yes, the Chinese.
So I always get attracted to number 8.
Okay.
ठीक है, तो 88 को मैंने मेरा जर्सी बनाया. 88 नंबर डाल के हम लोग ने ट्रॉफी जीता. As a captain, मैंने like it was a very fluctuating journey, but in the end, I knew it that we're gonna go close this. We're gonna win this trophy,
right?
The championship. Yeah. So, what is does 88 suit me?
It must. I would have to.
No, sir. No, neutrally आप बोलो मेरे को. मैंने एक्चुअली गलती कर दी आपको बोल के नहीं बोलना चाहिए था. But you tell me, 88, does it make a difference?
Of course.
How does it make a difference for my birth and chart and so on and so forth? Would you be able to discuss that now, or maybe we can do this for another session?
No, numerology, now how that number comes down and affects you, I don't know how to say it. I really don't know. But the fact that it does, I know, because I've experienced it.
Okay. How? Give me an example.
So, by changing the names of companies, or there are stores I have worked with, we have changed the spellings for them, and we've seen a change in business footfall, etc. Or using the numerology grid, I have seen that certain directions are imbalanced, and for this person this direction is important. We have treated those directions and got good results. That is how I know that it works.
Okay.
And you're not the only one. Huge, big, famous sports people across the world. The jersey number is a big thing.
Yeah, that I agree. Yeah.
So not everybody is.
But that is also part of superstition.
Not really. We will attribute things that we do not understand or don't know of to superstition. So in ancient times,
I don't attribute my senses to superstition. I attribute it to my gut feeling.
That is one thing we're talking about. Let me give you an example. In ancient Europe, they had so many epidemics of the plague. Populations were decimated.
Correct.
What did they do? Promised to build a church, believed that the gods and the angels are angry with them. They did not know how it spreads, what is causing it. They could just see that they did not know how that disease is getting transmitted, and they were superstitious about it. Today we understand. So we can treat it, control it, heal it. So it's no longer a superstitious thing because now we understand it. So I do believe that we as humans, as a race today, have a lot to learn. So what we don't understand, we can easily attribute to superstition. Let me give another example. Let us say that I got someone, if such people do exist still, an Adivasi who was born, brought up in the jungle, away from modern technology.
Yeah, so there are tribes in Africa who don't know God exists.
Great. So if I got such a person into my home and he just flipped the switch, the light switch in my home on the wall, and the light came on. He doesn't know anything about electricity. He doesn't know there's a wire running through it and how it works. He may believe that this is something magical. He can start praying to it for all you believe because he doesn't understand it. Later they can say that it is a superstitious belief when the electricity is lost and they keep flipping the switch. A lot of our rituals in the temples today are like
Tintin?
that. Yes, I love him.
So Tintin mein ek tha where he was in the South Americas,
Yes.
where he was tied up, and then he had seen where they were going to execute him, and there was a solar eclipse which was happening,
Yes.
and he
knew about it.
Yeah, he knew about it because of a piece of paper he read about it.
Yes.
And he used that against them to free him.
Yes.
Against the people who had captured him.
I will darken the sun.
Yeah.
Exactly. So those people did not know that an eclipse can
So
be predicted.
one side Tintin was science, and other side there was superstition.
Because one side knew what is going on, the other side did not. That's where we are.
So Vastu,
Yes.
you are science, I am superstition. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Very soon you'll be on this side.
No, I don't believe that. I don't. I understand certain parts of what you say, but I don't want it to dictate my life, because I've seen a lot of people who, I know some people who carry a knife in their pocket. These are not Sardars, they're not Sikhs. They carry a knife not because of religion, just because हमको किसने बोला है कि आप ये चाकू लेके घूमो तो आपको कुछ होता है. मतलब the moment he told me I carry a knife, I blanked out. मैं like छोड़ दो भाई, इसके साथ कुछ समझ में नहीं आता है. I mean, there has to be some
वही
practical.
लाइट स्विच वाला एग्जांपल है.
अच्छा, ठीक है. Okay, that was very mildly put. Let's go sit and grab a drink now. पानी पीएंगे. एक नींबू पानी पीते हैं.